Comprehensive comic. Beginning of God on Earth. Chapter 21. Ding. Kill the zombie demon. Loot to obtain. Zombie crafting, special ability. Ding. Energy plus 300. Something weaker than a bat demon. Quote. Nightwind glanced at the harvest, and there was no surprise in his heart. Zombie demon, this guy is really useless except for making zombies. It's just to deal with ordinary people, otherwise it wouldn't hide and develop. Its only strength may be its brain, which is smarter than ordinary demons. Zombie creation. After fusion, you can infect others to create zombies through blood. You can't control zombie movements. This so-called zombie manufacturing ability is true at a glance and is identified as pure waste. After the transformation and recovery, the only solace that can be given to Nightwind is that this ability is worth 200 energy points. It didn't take long to accumulate 1000 energy points. Quote. Looking at the energy points on the panel, Nightwind's heart was a little hot. With his current physical fitness, he can completely crush the low martial world. However, the Nightwind did not set off immediately. On the one hand, it is not clear the speed of time between the two worlds, and on the other hand, it is not suitable to go now. He was going to go back and rest before making plans. There was no need to rush it. Immediately, Nightbreeze looked at a few money bags in the corner. Just as he was about to take the money bags away, an explosion came from the outside world. The container seemed to have been hit by something, and a crater suddenly sank down from above. The next moment, a huge white fox claw tore through the iron sheet and smashed it down. Nightwind quickly lifted the money bag, dodged neatly sideways, and forcibly broke through the iron sheet and ran out of the container. At this time, the scene of the outside world also appeared in the field of vision of the Nightwind. Out of thin air, a huge fox claw that was only half cut off appeared, tearing at the leech demon whose skin was sticky all over its body, and it was extremely ugly without a look at all. The leech tentacles fluttered on the ground, easily shattering everything around them. And in the fight against the leech demon are two people. Or rather, three. It's just that one of them has only half of his body left, and his upper body has been blown away, and I don't know where it is. The one who was already dead was removed, and the one left was a woman wearing a black dress and black pants, a white shirt and a bottom, with a good and plump figure. She has short black ear-length hair and fair skin, and her appearance is delicate and beautiful, but her right eye is covered by a black blindfold, blocking the only scenery. At this moment, she was stained with a lot of blood all over her body, and she looked a little heroic. At the moment of high-intensity dodging and moving, dodging the attack of the leech demon's tentacles, the few buttons in front of her struggled to protect the huge that was about to come out. Her dark pupils stared at the leech demon in front of her, and shouted to her companion beside her. Jono. If you can continue to entangle this demon, I will create a chance for you later. Himeno-senpai, I'll do my best. Quote. The man next to him, who looked as young as Himeno and should have been in his 20s, responded with trembling legs. He struggled to control the only fox claw, fending off the leech demon's attacks with great difficulty. Himeno was also able to catch his breath for the first time in a long time, and reluctantly withdrew his gaze, focusing on the leech demon in front of him. Lesson 4 receives an order that there are hidden demons here, who seem to be controlling humans to form gangs. So she brought her two companions with her, her second companion. She hadn't known the two men for more than 3 days, and one of them. Glancing at the meat paste next to him, Himeno's eyes were full of sadness. It's different from the information I got. This should be a leech demon, not a hidden demon that can control people, as the superiors said. Could it be that it was a cooperation between demons, or did it happen to run away? Doubts flashed in his mind, but Himeno didn't get too distracted. The moment the leech demon dodged the fox's claws, she seized the moment. It's now. Himeno stretched out his right arm and grabbed the leech demon from a distance of more than 10 meters. An invisible ghost arm appeared out of thin air and instantly grabbed the leech demon's throat. This is the right to use one of the ghost demon's arms in exchange for her letting the ghost demon eat her right eye. Her companion Shirono sacrificed 5 fingers of her left hand in exchange for the right to use the fox demon's right claw. The sticky and soft leech body made Himeno unable to control it for too long, but it also made him freeze for a second. Just as Himeno yelled for her companion to seize the opportunity, she looked sideways and saw a leech tentacle pierce his chest. Shirono vomited blood silently, his eyes desperately waving his fingerless left palm as if in a gesture for help. Hee hee. I didn't really want to hurt this pretty man, but it's a pity. The leech demon laughed, and then the tentacles flicked upward. With a tear, Himeno's companion named Shirono was thrown into the leech demon's mouth like a small snack. Bang! Exclamation mark. Bang! The sound of bones shattering and flesh being chewed is heard. Bright red blood splattered down the corners of the leech demon's mouth, staining her large rows of neat white fangs red. Himeno's expression was still stiff, and he couldn't believe that his partner, who had only known each other for 2 days, was all killed now. Ha ha ha. This frightened and stiff expression is really evocative. Looking at Himeno's stiff expression, the leech demon laughed out loud. Instead of rushing to kill Himeno, she turned her head to look at Night Breeze, who was standing next to her with a money bag. The man who broke into the location of the little zombie, I didn't expect you to kill him, it's really funny. Quote. The leech demon's face has only one thick lip and large white teeth, as if the lost lips only has lips printed on her head. Her whole body was made of leech bodies, and the thing hanging down in front of her was disgusting from every angle. In particular, the smell of her body and the smell of blood made the Night Breeze crazy. He hurriedly turned off his sense of smell so that he would not be stunk to death by the leech demon. Seeing that the night wind didn't reply, the leech demon opened his mouth happily and said, "Oh Roar, it's very cold, take a closer look, you look really cute and handsome. Your face is my dish, so I'll be merciful and let you go." Quote. The more the leech demon looked at Night Wind's appearance, the more satisfied she became, and her heart was rippling, and she cracked the corners of her mouth, revealing a disgusting smile. Night Wind casually threw aside the money bag in his hand, and roughly understood the reason for the incident. It seems that the zombie demon seems to be related to the leech demon, and the two demons still know each other. Therefore, the leech demon is also hiding near here, and it happens to meet Himeno and his party who rushed here. Faced with the leech demon's kindness, Night Wind scolded, "Are you going to let me go? But I don't plan to let you go. Maid's disgusting appearance is so disgusting that she literally pollutes my eyeballs, just kill me like that bat." Quote. Night Wind's blood-stained face was quite hideous, he was really disgusted by the leech demon in front of him and wanted to vomit. As soon as the Night Wind spoke, he kicked his legs and retreated. In the next second, thick and sticky leech tentacles followed. Boom! The ground beneath his feet exploded in an instant, shattered by a blow from the leech's tentacles. Purely in terms of strength, the leech demon is not inferior to himself at all, or even better. The nimble tentacles quickly swerved and slammed into Night Wind's chest. If it was an ordinary person, this blow would be enough to tear his body in half, and the Night Wind resisted hard. The leech demon also felt that it didn't feel right, as if he had smashed a large piece of steel, or harder than steel. Even if it's a vehicle, she can easily tear it, but she can't shake this body. The Night Wind was blasted out in an instant, and it changed its flight trajectory by manipulating the biological force field, so that it was not directly pumped into the sea. Rao is like this, he also smashed on a container, and his back was deeply imprinted on the iron sheet. I'm afraid I'll be injured if I resist with my body alone, but fortunately, I have a suit to cushion some of the strength. Quote. Patting the black Superman suit on his body, Night Wind was a little happy in his heart. And seeing that the Night Wind actually resisted the blow and was fine, Himeno was shocked, and the smile on the corner of the leech demon's mouth became more and more rampant. It turns out that you killed the little bat, and finally let me find you. The bat's dream of eating all humans with me was ruined by you. It's a shame to kill a handsome guy like you, but you'd better die. The leech demon's words fell, and the smile on his face disappeared at the same time. Even if she didn't have facial features, Himeno could detect her gloomy face. In place of the arms, leech tentacles shoot out instantly, extending and twisting to stab at the Night Wind from different directions. Bang bang bang. Buildings along the way were torn apart like pieces of paper by tentacles, and the splattered stones and debris were the first to smash into the Night Wind. The flying stones and garbage smashed on Night Wind's body, and immediately exploded into an even more crumbling pulp. These things can't break his defenses at all, and they don't need to be ignored at all. The night wind, who was concentrating, suddenly noticed that everything around him had slowed down. The tentacle attacks, which were barely visible to the leech demons, are now clearly visible. It's slow. No, it's not that the other party is slow, it's that I'm faster. Nightwind even had time to take a few glances at the panel at this time, and found that the talent column had awakened super speed. He then sideways to avoid the leech's tentacles, grazing the sticky tentacles as he dodged. Due to the adhesion of the biological force field, he ignored the smoothness of the leech demon's skin, and smashed his round right fist into her face. A powerful punch slammed into the leech demon's cheek, her skin sunken, and the layers of force turned into waves and spread outward. Poof! The night wind that blasted out of the punch jumped back, causing the tentacles that came from behind to pounce once again. Night wind, who fell to Himeno's side, waved his fist and recalled the feeling that was wrong just now. The leech demon's body is extremely resistant to blunt blows, and you can't hurt her like that. Quote. Himeno clutched his bleeding right arm and spoke to the night breeze. She was shocked by Nightwind's extraordinary strength, but she quickly adapted. After all, there are too many talented people in the world, and there are magical girls here in Duomo City. No wonder the power is scattered, and I don't think it's time to speak. Quote. Nightwind replied to Himeno, reached out and scooped it up and hugged it in the posture of a princess. Immediately, he stomped on the ground and soared 10 meters into the air, leaping from this end to a position dozens of meters away. And the concrete floor where he was standing before was smashed to pieces by 2 leech tentacles in the next second. You're a puppy who really me off, it's useless to run fast. The leech demon looked at the night wind and Himeno not far away with a hideous face, and the leech's body squirmed wildly, approaching both sides at an extremely fast speed. Nightwind reminded Himeno in his arms, hold on, I'm going to run. Quote. Oh. Himeno, who came back to his senses, turned slightly red, but he also knew that the night wind had saved his life just now. She didn't care about the pain of her broken arm, and hurriedly reached out and wrapped her arms around Nightwind's neck. Nightwind also didn't hesitate to turn around and run, he was going to spend a few more minutes with the leech demon first. When the sun is almost out of the sun, he releases his hot gaze and blasts it to death. Near the crowded harbor, the night breeze and leech demons come up in a race of chases and runs. Nightwind also deliberately hung the leech demon, and did not break out and flee at full speed. Now he runs as fast as a normal car on the road. If you use all your strength, you can reach speeds of more than 100 kilometers per hour. The leech demon's speed alone couldn't keep up with his full speed running. And the leech demon chased it for several minutes, causing panic among the humans in the surrounding neighborhood. Even though his strength has increased by a few points, he has stopped. In her opinion, Nightwind may be deliberately dragging herself to find help, her previous boyfriend, Bat Demon, but was almost killed by a magical girl. Thinking of this, she turned and ran in the direction of the harbor, ready to find another place to hide. Huh. This idiot has a brain. Seeing that the ripe duck was about to run, Nightwind turned around and chased after the leech demon. Himeno asked in a bewildered whisper, are you going to hunt this demon? Almost. I don't want her to run away. Quote. The Nightwind didn't have time to let Himeno down, and responded while chasing. The solar energy that had just been accumulated was converging towards his eyes, and his eyes glowed faintly red in the sunlight. Himeno didn't know what Nightwind was up to, but she was willing to help him. Catch her. She manipulated the ghost's arm and choked the leech demon's hind legs in the air. The power of the ghost's arm is so great that it can even hold the leech demon for a short time. The leech demon only felt that his leg was pulled out of thin air by something, and his body couldn't help but fall forward due to inertia. Before a deadly scarlet beam shot out, a pink figure descended from the sky at a speed that surpassed the Nightwind's dynamic vision. Boom! The moment the figure fell, a deafening explosion resounded in all directions. Billowing smoke rose and scattered. As the sea breeze blows, the smoke and dust gradually dissipate. Passers-by who had not yet fled the area gasped and looked at the scene in front of them in horror and rejoicing. The ground that was originally paved with cement exploded and shattered, and dense cracks spread out dozens of meters in all directions. Looking along the fine crack towards the central area is even more concave and nearly a meter deep. Traces of scorching white smoke were coming out of the huge hole. And this shocking picture is just the aftermath of the shock when the pink figure lands. Ah, I haven't had time to rein in some of my strength in a hurry, so are you all right? Quote. The pink figure walked out of the center of the crater from far to near, and asked Yefeng and Himeno apologetically. In the dull gaze of the two, the leech demon's body turned into a puddle of mud. From the fist marks on the ground, it can be seen that the demon must have been blasted with a punch. This strength is at least 100 times 1,000 times stronger than his own, and the control is also very good, just causing such damage. The amazed Night Wind withdrew her gaze and focused her gaze on the pink magical girl in front of her. Himeno, who was in his arms, was also encountering this situation for the first time, and looked at the Night Wind at a loss. Night Wind calmed down a little, and swept his gaze to the corpse of the leech demon. All she had left was her head and most of her body turned into mud, and she wasn't really dead yet. There was a faint breath in his mouth, and the sound was extremely quiet, but it was clearly heard by the night breeze. And the pink magical girl was walking this way, not noticing that her punch didn't really kill the leech demon. The hot gaze that had already gathered in his eyes shot out, sweeping towards the leech demon who was about to escape with the last bit of strength. Poof! The blazing red light instantly shattered the leech demon's skull. In the midst of the blood and minced meat, Chiyoda Momo was also taken aback, and looked behind him expressionlessly. Didn't you kill it? The vitality is so tenacious. Quote. However, the attack just now by the Night Wind also made Chiyoda Momo's heart full of curiosity. Night Breeze was now focusing on his panel. Ding. Kill the leech demon and plunder to obtain leech body, slimy body fluids. Ding. Plus 500. Fox Squid. Seeing these two abilities, Nightwind only felt sick to his stomach. Transformation, it's all for me. Nightwind hurriedly shouted in his heart, not even wanting to see what was the use. Ding. Convert energy points plus 400. Then he collected his emotions and carefully observed Chiyoda Dao in front of him. She is taller than an average girl, and her skin is as fair as snow and shiny. Even if he had just blasted a demon with his bare hands, there was no blood stain on his body. Her pink hair is tied into a double ponytail, and her appearance is delicate and cute, but her expressionless appearance looks a little cold. A cute pink magical girl outfit, as well as the white silk of those two pairs of beautiful legs, make people shine. The only pity is that there are some remnants in her chest, especially after feeling the sheer size of Himeno in her arms, the gap is even more obvious. Even though she had a pink magic wand in her hand, Nightwind still felt that her fists were more intimidating. And seeing that the Nightwind didn't speak, Chiyoda Dao thought that she had scared him. However, she also recognized that Nightwind was a classmate from the next class. Sakura's lips opened slightly, and she asked in a low voice, "Then you are also a student, right? Are you okay?" Quote. Well, it's fine. Quote. Nightwind nodded. Himeno also chimed in. I'm fine. Quote. Seeing that the two of them were fine, Chiyoda Dao nodded slightly. Since it's okay, then I'm going back to class. Classmate, did you run out without asking for leave? Do you want me to take you back with you? Chiyoda Momo didn't get too entangled, but looked at the Nightwind and asked. She sensed the fluctuations of the enchantment here, so she urgently transformed and flew here. The entire city of Domo has an enchantment arranged by her sister, but she is not the one who arranged it, and at most she can only do it in hindsight. Hearing that Chiyoda Momo was going to take herself back, Nightwind shook her head again and again. I've already asked for leave, so I don't need to trouble Chiyoda-san, you for help. Quote. Well, then I'll go first. Classmate, your physical fitness is very good, we can exercise or have a chance to learn. Quote. Before leaving, Chiyoda Momo glanced at the perfectly proportioned muscles of the Nightwind. As someone who prefers muscle strength to magic, she's interested in discussing this with others. It's just that there are no other magical girls in the school, and even if there are few who specialize in building muscles like her. Seeing that Nightwind had such an ability, she became interested in making friends. Nightwind didn't refuse, but nodded his head to indicate that he must be. There is a magical girl with the highest physical fitness to exercise together, and there is no harm to yourself. The next moment, Chiyoda Momo stood on tiptoe and disappeared in front of the two of them as a pink meteor. Her flight speed should have exceeded the speed of sound, which was the envy of the night style. However, this thought quickly converged: if he could bask in the sun for a while, the speed of sound would only be the starting speed. It wasn't until Chiyoda Momo left that Himeno lay in Nightwind's arms for a long time before coming back to his senses. She couldn't help but stare at the handsome and masculine young man in front of her, and asked in a low voice, "Your school? Is there such a lot of talent?" "Neither is it. Well, Chiyoda Momo and I are in a very special situation." Quote. Night Breeze was silent for a while, and finally came back. Chiyoda Momo is a magical girl, and not many people should know about it at present. It's just that she doesn't seem to have the idea of hiding her identity, and it is estimated that the students in the class will basically know about it after a while. Can you put me down? Himeno whispered shyly at this time. After reacting, she found that she had been hugged by Princess Nightwind for so long. Passers-by around the street gathered around them, looking at them curiously. This situation makes Himeno, who has just debuted and has just become a demon hunter, very ashamed. The Night Breeze also put her down very gentlemanly, but the palm of his hand inadvertently brushed the curve of Himeno's figure. Very good waist-to-hip ratio, slender waist convex and backward. Looking at the tight buttons, the Nightwind is really afraid that it will fly out. Himeno was still an adult after all, and he quickly soothed his inner shyness. My name is Himeno, and I'm the official demon hunter of the 4th Division of the General Bureau of Anomalous Events. What about you? Himeno smiled, her reddish cheeks like blooming flowers. Her only remaining left eye looked curiously at Night Breeze, admiring his appearance and figure. If she really looked closely, she could see how great Nightwind's figure was. Even the team members who specialize in exercising their bodies in the Demon Strange class are not as good as the Night Breeze in front of her, who is younger than her. Nightwind didn't hide it, and if he really wanted to find out, he couldn't hide his identity. You can call me Nightwind, I'm still a student. Quote. Hee, Ah Feng should have skipped class, you can hear the perfunctory tone of the girl just now. But here I solemnly thank you for saving me, can you leave a contact information? In return, I invite you to a dinner party in the lounge this Saturday so that you can see the gathering of adults. Himeno quickly put on the appearance of a big sister and became familiar with the Night Breeze. Watching her seamless changes, Night Breeze also understood that this was a catharsis of her emotions. I just experienced the death of my companion in front of my eyes, and if I don't change my mood, the pain that has accumulated in my heart will make people crazy. When you really see your parents and companions die, your sadness will not be expressed on the outside, but on the inside. Nightwind didn't mind helping Himeno relieve his grief a bit, and nodded in agreement. He didn't want to stay here for a long time, so he hurried to the place where he had dropped the money bag, picked it up, and left in a hurry. It wasn't until the Night Breeze left that Himeno restrained the smile on his face. Looking at the wreckage and the corpses of his two companions all over the ground, Himeno let out a long sigh helplessly. Another day to survive. But I'm looking forward to it today. Quote. Himeno, who is accompanied by death all the time, knows that his next mission may be the one who died. The heart that originally adhered to the rules was also loosened by the impact of the death of these two companions. After all, who knows if he will die tomorrow, and he doesn't need to worry about anything anymore. She took out the phone to report to her superiors, and the red-haired woman sitting in the office answered the phone and listened to Himeno's report with a blank face. The Night Breeze on the other end did not go home directly, but took the bags of money to buy a new mobile phone and came to an apartment building. The apartment building is not too far from his home, only a kilometer away. And the people living in 201 on the second floor of the apartment building have a lot to do with him. When I was in trouble a few years ago, I spent it eating her soft rice. Thinking about it this time, Nightwind is still a little guilty. This is not because of the guilt of eating soft rice, but mainly in another aspect. Taking a deep breath, Night Breeze immediately unscrewed the door lock and walked in. You didn't lock the door. Love must be reminded this time. Quote. This apartment is Hoshino's secret residence, and no one else knows about it except for Nightwind and President Kyoko. And Kyoko is the president of Berry Production, and its main idol group is B Kamachi, where Hoshino lives. In the face of people who are closer to her, she prefers to be called Kyoko by others. She is 5 or 6 years older than I Hoshino, and it is said that she once met a nobleman and gave her a sum of money to create this office. Originally thought about the unspoken rules of beautiful boy idols, but as a result, he formed a girl group in a daze. Her office is not large, and it takes all her energy to maintain this girl group. Later, as the president, she was basically busy with this and that, and she couldn't spare much time at all. But the beautiful boy is not without unspoken rules, and she was looked down upon when she met her before Night Wind. At that time, she originally wanted to pull the Night Breeze to make her debut, but she was rejected by the Night Wind. Looking back, the memory of that time is still very clear, and the Night Breeze told Kyoko very bluntly. You can sell yourself or anything, don't look for me for something so troublesome as debuting as an idol. His personal interest is not in the entertainment industry, but more importantly, he may have to lose money in the early stage. It's better to sell yourself directly, at least in the short term. And then he sold it. Sold his body to Kyoko. A large part of the money for daily expenses is obtained from selling one's body. At that time, his pony almost broke down, but fortunately, he was more restrained and knew how to maintain health, so there was nothing wrong with his body. It doesn't matter at all now, next time I'm going to show her what a plowed ox is. Night Breeze was overwhelmed with emotion, but quickly retracted his thoughts. The apartment was empty, and it looked like she hadn't come back yet. He skillfully arranged the mess on the floor and tidied up the house as if he were returning to his own home. In fact, he used to come a few times a week, and he would come when he had free time. After packing everything up, Night Breeze walked straight in the direction of the bedroom. There was a click, and the door opened. The bedrooms are simple and bright, and the floors are covered with soft foam patchwork mats. As long as you don't fall from too high a place, your child will not be injured. A little girl with short black hair, snow white and pink skin, and delicate and cute facial features is sitting on the ground playing with her mobile phone. Noticing the arrival of the Night Wind, the little girl quickly stood up, put down her phone, and walked quickly to the Night Breeze to ask for a hug. Looking at her watery red eyes and the white star pattern in her left eye, Night Wind showed a helpless smile. She is Rumi Hoshino, whose nickname is Ruby, I Hoshino's biological daughter. If it was before, the Night Wind would probably show a gentle smile and go up to pick her up. It's just that now it's really weird, and sure enough, after the vague memories are clear, I finally know why I always feel weird. The beautiful clothes of Hoshino-Ru in front of her should be the reincarnation of Tendo Temple Serena. No wonder she has always felt that the way she looked at her was wrong. At the beginning, she was also a patient of the Kasagano family, and she also knew her when Night Wind went to the hospital. Because she is aware of Tentoji Serena's condition, Night Wind treats her well, and often chats with her in the past, and imagines her future. At that time, I Hoshino had just debuted for a year, and her fame was not very big, but Tentoji Serena liked I Hoshino very much. It's just a pity that it didn't take long for Serena to die of astrocytoma when she was 12 years old. Tendo Temple Serena's family is actually very good, with both parents and an older brother. Even from beginning to end, she never saw her brother and parents much. Her family basically pretended not to see Tendo Temple Serena, and only provided her with the most basic medical help. Yefeng can't say that her family is very bad, from their point of view alone, even if they don't have a daughter, they have a happy and complete family of 3. Because of this, Tendo Temple Serena did not receive good treatment and died so early. Before she died, almost only the Night Breeze was with her, chatting and playing with her. And after she died, her parents buried her in a hurry, and there was no follow-up. To this day, only I remember the time of her death, and often bring flowers to the grave to worship. And not long after that, I Hoshino gave birth to Mimi Hoshino, and the Kasagano couple also had a car accident. That year was also his most difficult year, so he also pressed his grief to the bottom of his heart in his busyness. I'll go to the grave to see you for a long time, you turned out to be reincarnated directly as Hoshino's daughter. Hug, Wind, I want to hug and touch my head. Looking at the Night Breeze that fell into memory, Rui Hoshino shouted anxiously twice. She felt that the Night Breeze was a little strange today, why didn't she hug her like before? Knowing that Night Breeze only comes once in a while, she cherishes the time she spends with him. Being reincarnated as Ai Hoshino's daughter really made her excited and happy. She was pleasantly surprised by the night breeze that soon came to her place in the delivery room. For her in her previous life, as Tendo Temple Serena, Night Wind can be said to be her only friend, the pillar of life, and Ai Hoshino is her single pusher. If you want to say which is more important, there is no doubt that it is the night breeze that has always been by his side and is a few years older than him. Originally, she also made a pact with Night Wind that if she could live to be 16, she would agree to have a relationship with her. It's just a pity that it's still too long for the length of my life. But when your favorite idol and favorite person come together, two of the most beautiful things come together. Tendo Temple Serena. No, it's Rumi Hoshino's mood is not very good, and it can even be said to be a collapse. It's me first, it's obviously me first. Whether it's a kiss, a hug, or a liking guy. Why is this happening? Obviously, for the first time, I have a favorite person, and I have an idol who can push it alone for a lifetime. Two happy things coincide with each other, and these two happiness bring me more happiness. What you get is a world that should be as happy as a dream. But why did it turn out like this? Such a collapsed mood has accompanied Rumi Hoshino for 2 years, but fortunately, she has eased up later and doesn't care too much about it. To be born again and to see the people she loves again, it was enough for her. And today's strange behavior of the night wind instantly alerted me Hoshino. Hearing the shouts of Rumi Hoshino, Night Wind was silent for a second. In the end, he reached out and carefully took her into his arms, skillfully touching her head. Oh, Ruby, sorry, just thought of something. Quote. In that case, then I will forgive you, but don't fool me like a child. Quote. Rumi Hoshino's pink cute face leaned against the cheeks of the night breeze and responded in a somewhat arrogant tone. She smiled happily when her head was touched, and her whole person closed her eyes and enjoyed it. The night breeze that adjusted her mood patted her little ass and pretended to teach her a lesson. Don't pretend to be an adult, you 4-year-old kid. No, the wind is so bad for you. Quote. Rumi Hoshino pouted and retorted. Her little nose sniffed the breath on the night wind, and suddenly frowned. The wind stinks so much, what happened today? Rumi Hoshino pinched her nose with her little hand and complained. Then she put down her delicate little hand and touched the cheek of the night breeze in distress. She saw dust and blood stains on Night Wind's skin, as if she was injured. Night Wind heard Rumi Hoshino's complaints, and then remembered that he hadn't taken a bath yet. Although the Superman suit has a cleaning function, it simply cleans the suit itself. He still had the smell of battle blood and dust on his body, and he still had to be cleaned. Just got involved in a battle, rest assured I'm not hurt, this is the blood of the enemy. Quote. Night Breeze said and walked straight to the bathroom. This apartment also has his spare clothes and pants, don't worry about not having pants to wear. When I came to the bathroom again, Rumi Hoshino's delicate and fair skin quickly became pink. Sure enough, no matter how many times she is still very shy, but there is nothing to be shy about her current age. She forcibly shifted her attention away, and her gaze swept to the night wind. It doesn't matter if you look at it, you almost drool. Wow. What's going on with this body? That's not what I've seen before. Why are the muscles so beautiful, so secure? Question mark. Rumi Hoshino screamed wildly in her heart, forgetting what Night Wind said just now. It wasn't until Night Wind took off her clothes and carried her into the bathtub to soak in the bathtub that Rumi Hoshino gradually came back to her senses. Wait, you just said fighting the enemy, what's going on? Rumi Hoshino's eyes literally, sparkling staring at the night breeze. Even if he was talking, his gaze did not shift by half a minute. Her delicate little hands groped around the night breeze, pinching the muscles and rubbing them herself. If it had been the night wind before, I am afraid that it would have felt strange. Now Night Breeze knows why, because it's not a 4-year-old kid in front of him. It's no wonder that Hoshino has never wanted to go to kindergarten, saying that she thinks kindergarten is childish and just wants to be at home. It's also thanks to Hoshino Ai who spoils her very much, and Hoshino's love is really big. Will let his 4-year-old daughter be at home alone, and the key door is not locked. From now on, I have to change this aspect of Hoshino's personality to her, and she can't be so willful anymore. Listening to Rumi Hoshino's question, Night Wind didn't hide it either, and gave a brief description. To put it simply, I'm Superman now, and I just killed a demon with a demon hunter, and I met a magical girl. Quote. Aren't you fooling me? Regarding the description of the night wind, Mihoshino is deeply skeptical. There's no way these elements are stacked together, and no matter how you look at it, it's strange. Only Rumi Hoshino also believed what Night Wind said. After all, everyone knew about the existence of demons. And she's still a reincarnated person, so it's not impossible that there are some magical girls or something in the world. It's just that what do you mean by Superman? Is it something that has changed in your body? Rumi Hoshino, who was dripping with crystal clear saliva, touched the strong pectoralis major muscles of the night breeze, and asked out in surprise. She seemed to have forgotten that she was only a 4-year-old, and that a 4-year-old could ask so many nonsense things. Night Wind also ignored this problem now, and did not choose to hide it, and said bluntly. It's literal, have you seen the comics from the Eagle Country? Quote. I don't know, I only look at my mother's work. Quote. Rumi Hoshino immediately shook her head, she didn't pay attention to those things at all. The night breeze is also difficult to explain, so I simply don't talk about it, and I talked to Mihoshino about the kindergarten. Ruby, it's not a problem for you to stay home alone all day, you still have to go to kindergarten for me. I'm smart, I don't need to go at all. Quote. Rui Hoshino tried very hard to refute, and seeing this, Nightwind said. Then I'll add a condition, how about I'll pick you up when you get out of school? That's okay. Hoshino Rumi's eyes suddenly lit up, and she responded without saying a word. Nightwind now also thoroughly understands that Rumi Hoshino usually cares about herself. After washing her body and wiping her clothes off Rumi Hoshino in the back, Nightbreeze carried her back to the house. I changed into clean clothes and pants for Rumi Hoshino, and I went to the closet to get a clean pair of pants to put on, and the Nightbreeze breathed a sigh of relief. Opening the refrigerator door, Nightbreeze turned his head and asked, Ruby, what do you want to eat? Anyway, there was still some time, so he was going to cook a table of dishes and wait for Hoshino to come back before leaving. I love everything you make in the wind. Rui Hoshino raised her hands excitedly, looking like she was waiting to be fed. Hoshino loves to cook, but it's not as delicious as the night breeze. And because of his idle status, he usually doesn't have much time to stay at home. The meals she cooks are basically the simplest kind, not starving to death, and it is very good to be fed. So until now, Hoshino has retained the most traditional feeding method, breastfeeding. Because of this, if you have the opportunity, the night breeze can also get a piece of the pie. After all, you can fill your stomach as a little kid, and I'll help you with the rest. Night breeze finished cooking with the ingredients in the refrigerator and was about to enjoy it with Rumi Hoshino when the vision in front of him flickered and dimmed. There was a tingling pain in his eyes, and the vision in front of him became transparent. Looking down at Rumi Hoshino in her arms, her body transforming back and forth between her skeleton and her flesh and skin. The speed of self-awakening is really fast, and it has only been 2 days. Quote. The night breeze covered his eyes and gasped uncomfortably. Perhaps because of his adulthood, under the light of the yellow sun, his Kryptonian genes awakened faster than he imagined. In particular, the battle just now also stimulated some of the potential and tapped out the potential power. He has awakened the ability of clairvoyance, again, which is simply clairvoyance. The stinging pain made him unable to suppress the switch of other abilities for a while, and he heard an extremely faint mechanical sound in the direction of the living room. Seeing the night breeze showing such pain, Rui Hoshino anxiously put down her chopsticks and asked anxiously. What's the matter? You look like you're having a hard time, it's okay. Nightwind now looks like she did when her body was in pain, and she is afraid that Nightwind will leave her again. It's okay, don't worry, I'm fine, it's an awakening superpower. Quote. The panting Nightwind shook her head, and Rumi Hoshino was also stunned, and then she was shocked by what he said. What? Superpower? What superpower? Can I wake up? She looked at herself for the first time. Since Nightwind can awaken any superpower after eating, then wouldn't she be able to? Before that, she had only watched those flying anime on TV, and if she put it on herself, she would probably die of laughter. Seeing the excited look on Hoshino Rumi's face, Nightwind touched her head wordlessly, interrupting her fantasy. Don't think about it, you can't awaken. This superpower was recently acquired by me. If it was before, you would have a chance. Quote. How can this be? Tell me what kind of superpower it is, will it be like those heroes? Rumi Hoshino hurriedly asked, but Nightwind didn't want to answer. After all, the clare is such a thing. If he controls it well, he will be able to see through the clothes. If you say this, I'm afraid I'll be scolded by Hoshino Rumi. He changed the subject, turned his head to the living room and said, let's talk about superpowers later. What's going on with those decorations in the living room? It's so cunning that you don't want to tell me, and you have to keep it a secret. The things in the living room, those were given by my mother's fans, and she brought them back and put them in the living room as decorations. Quote. Rumi Hoshino muttered, but her simple-minded mind was quickly distracted by the night breeze and proudly told the origin of the ornament. Hearing that it was sent by a fan, Nightwind suddenly frowned. He got up and went to the living room, glanced at the flowers on the vase, and then shifted his gaze to a star sand wishing bottle. This is a wishing bottle filled with Okinawa's unique star-shaped sand, and you can see that it is a fan of the heart. It was only when the night wind swept through it with its claircopy that it soon discovered that there was a tiny bugging device hidden in the sand. Through this eavesdropping, and lock the apartment where you love to live. Bed bugs hiding in the shadows will only use such despicable tricks. Quote. Nightwind picked up the star sand bottle, and with a slight force in the palm of his hand, the entire bottle was pinched and exploded in an instant. Rui Hoshino, who was following Nightwind, was startled and instinctively reached out to cover her face. But the next second, she was not hurt by the splashing glass. When she opened her eyes, she saw an unbelievable picture. I saw that the star sand bottle that was pinched and exploded by the night wind was torn apart, but it seemed to be restrained in the air by an invisible force. Every grain of star sand floated, and the hidden eavesdropping device appeared in front of him. With a slight pinch of Nightwind's fingertips, he pinched the bug on his fingertips. Bang! Nightwind didn't hesitate, and his fingertips closed to smash the eavesdropper in an instant. Fragments of fine sand fell, manipulating the Nightwind's bioforce field, and drifted into the trash. Although his possession of a limited biostat is not yet able to support him in flight. But it's still possible to manipulate subtle things like this. Rumi Hoshino, who was watching the whole process from the side, her eyes were shining, and her eyes were full of adoration. Ah! It's so cool, so cool. If it weren't for Hoshino being her mother now, I'm afraid that the image of Rumi Hoshino in her heart would have changed. There is a bugging device hidden in the star sand, and I guess love hasn't moved much, otherwise you should be able to find out if you play carefully. Quote. After this mother took it back, she put it there directly, and she hasn't touched it since. Quote. Rumi Hoshino echoed angrily, she didn't expect there to be such a perverted fan. Hiding a bugging device in a gift is a crime at all. I'm back, Ruby. Fengjun, you're there too. Hoshino's voice came from outside the door, and when she opened the door and came in, she saw that the night breeze was also there, and the corners of her mouth immediately raised a happy smile. Nightwind also turned to look at the door, nodding slightly with a smile on the corner of his mouth. Love has waist-length purple hair, and purple eyes with star-like patterns. She still hasn't changed out of her gorgeous outfit, which is what she wears as an idol. The dress is mainly red and pink, and the top is divided into 2 layers, and the outer layer is embellished with 3 light blue stars. The inner layer has pink long sleeves, and the outer yellow collar also wears a heart ornament with small wings. The skirt is pink, dark pink, and yellow from the inside to the outside. She wears a black girdle around her waist, a pair of red gloves on her hands, and a pair of bright red over-the-knee boots underneath. On the left side of the head is a pale yellow bunny hairpin with a smiling face and a red bow. This outfit makes Hoshino's plump and graceful body, exuding a youthful and lively atmosphere, and at the same time, it also outlines the outline of the body's curves. She took off her over-the-knee boots on her legs, revealing her smooth white knees and calves, and her round, white thighs were revealed. The legs are slender, the arms are well proportioned, the figure is graceful, the fingers are slender and thin, and the delicate and beautiful melon seed face is painted with light makeup. No matter how many times you watch Night Breeze, you feel that Ai Hoshino in front of you is perfect. It is worthy of being called the ultimate beautiful girl. The C-position existence that can't be touched by thunder. Ideographic period. This is also the reason why her singing skills and dancing skills are average, and her acting skills are mediocre, and she can also shine in her idol career. Good evening, Fangjun. Ai Hoshino didn't wear slippers, so she came up and gave Nightwind a big hug and kissed him happily on the cheek. Then the tip of her nose moved slightly, and she went straight to the dining table without changing into her family clothes. Fangjun's cooking is really the best. Quote. Eating the food on the table, Ai Hoshino smiled contentedly. Nightwind smiled indulgently and told her to wash her hands before eating. Ai Hoshino is also obedient, or she usually listens to what the Nightwind says. She was born in a single-parent family, and when she was a child, she suffered from her mother's domestic violence for a long time, and then her mother was imprisoned for theft, and she had nowhere to go. Originally, Ai Hoshino was going to an orphanage, but when she was hospitalized for treatment of domestic violence, she met the Night Breeze at that time. Seeing that she was pitiful, the Kasagano couple temporarily adopted Ai Hoshino in place of the orphanage. However, even if the mother was later released from prison, the other party did not come to bring love home. It seems that Ai Hoshino was abandoned by her mother, and Ai Hoshino also knows that she has been abandoned. At that time, Ai Hoshino lived with Night Breeze and slept in the same bed, which made the dome very jealous at that time. And one day at the age of 12, Ai Hoshino was taken by a scout and asked for the opinion of Night Breeze. Because of her childhood experience, Ai Hoshino didn't know what love was, and she didn't know how to love others. She believes that being an idol is about sharing love with her fans, and she knows she can't do that. When I went back and asked about Nightwind, I got the idea that she could give it a try. In the end, she chose to listen to the advice of Yefeng, who was a few years younger than herself, and chose to join the idol group, B. Kamachi, thus starting her idol career. During this period, she has been working hard, from a child who doesn't know anything, step by step to her current position. It's just that in front of the Nightwind, she is actually no different from Rumi Hoshino. And to this day, Ai Hoshino also feels that she doesn't know what true love is. As an idol so far, she has not really loved this profession from the bottom of her heart. But she didn't care, she felt that her life was already good now. She feels that becoming an idol for her children and for Fangjun is already a very happy thing. It is precisely because of this happiness that her smile became sincere 3 years ago. Later, his influence gradually expanded, and he became a popular idol now. Eat it with rice. Nightwind gave Ai Hoshino a bowl of rice and placed it in front of her eyes. Ai Hoshino suddenly showed an expression of wanting to cry without tears, but she still nodded obediently. However, after picking up the chopsticks in a rusty way, she asked as carefully as ever, "There shouldn't be any sand in the rice, right?" "Don't worry, no, I've washed it many times." Quote. The Night Breeze coaxed Hoshino to love like a child. Only then did she feel at ease and eat with me Hoshino with a smile. Ai Hoshino doesn't have any nasty food, the only thing is that she doesn't like white rice very much. She was terrified of the feeling of gurgling when she bit into the little grains of sand in her rice. The reason is that when she was young, the fragments of the glass thrown by her mother fell into the meal, and she had a psychological shadow after eating. Therefore, as long as the Night Breeze brings her a meal, Ai Hoshino will ask this question, just like praying before a meal. After sweeping away the meal, Ai Hoshino pulled down her clothes and fed her daughter some more milk. Hoshino Rumei was also not polite, and ate it in a big gulp, with a beautiful look. The 2 and 1 child sat on the sofa, like a family of 3. Immediately, Nightwind took out his newly bought mobile phone and said to Ai Hoshino, "Love, I changed my phone and phone, this is my new number, you can remember it again." Quote. The latest smartphone, Fangjun, you are rich all of a sudden. Ai Hoshino looked at the style of the smartphone in Nightwind's hand, and suddenly let out an exclamation. She is still in the rising stage of her career, and her salary is only 200,000 yuan a month, which is the same as that of ordinary wage earners, or even less. Otherwise, she wouldn't have lived in this remote apartment, and it was as simple as eating and living. Looking at Ai Hoshino, who was surprised, Nightwind pointed to a few bags in the corner and said, I made some money from special channels, and now I don't need to worry about money. Quote. Wow, Fengjun, your tone seems to be the gangster boss in the movie, so powerful. When I opened the bags of money and saw that there were at least tens of millions of money inside, Hoshino eyes starry eyes, sparkling. Mom, your focus is so strange, you shouldn't think that the wind has done something bad. Quote. Hoshino Rumi looked at her mother speechlessly. Normal people would panic when they saw so much money. It is estimated that Ai Hoshino is so nervous that he doesn't realize the seriousness of the problem at all. In Ruby's name for the night wind, Ai Hoshino also tried to correct it a few times, but it didn't work and didn't take it seriously. Ruby, I think Fengjun must be measured in his actions, and he will be fine. Quote. For the night wind, Hoshino I can be said to have no bottom line of trust, but she is also a little curious about the changes in the night wind. Looking at these bags of money, Ai Hoshino couldn't help but sigh. In this world, money is paramount, although I enjoy the work of idols and don't care about the salary. But I still want Lu to go to a better school than you and learn more talents. Giving you more options than I did before. Quote. The cost of good private kindergartens and schools is astronomical. Ai Hoshino, who experienced hardships in her childhood, doesn't want her daughter to have the same experience as her again. She wanted to see that Ruby had a bigger future, a better future. Ai Hoshino knows that learning is the most direct path. Therefore, she has been trying to make money by trying to become a more famous idol and make more money so that Ruby has a better choice. Love, your idea will come true. I just convinced Ruby to go to kindergarten. Ruby also has the talent to be an idol, and the money should be enough for tuition and other expenses, so that Kyoko can find a better kindergarten. Quote. Nightwind is noncommittal about Ai Hoshino's exclamation. In his opinion, power is as important as money in the ordinary world, and there is no concept of money supremacy. And in today's world, fists are more important than anything else. Like today, even if there are tens of millions of money in these bags, it doesn't make the night breeze mood fluctuate much. Because he knew that he could earn more at any time, it was only a matter of time. Fengjun, you've convinced Ruby, that's great. Hearing that her daughter was finally willing to go to kindergarten, Ai Hoshino's face suddenly filled with a happy smile. She's too busy with work, and Night Breeze has to go to school. If the president Kyoko is the president, she doesn't have time to help with the children. This made her worry that her daughter was home alone. If she could go to kindergarten, then she would be much more relaxed. Ding dong. The doorbell rang suddenly. Ai Hoshino turned her head to look at the portal and muttered, is it President Kyoko who is visiting? Kyoko came over a lot to sit and even slept in this apartment. The only people who know about their apartment are the night wind, herself, and the President Kyoko. She walked straight out the door without any warning, but was stopped by the night breeze. What's wrong with Fengjun? Ai Hoshino looked at Nightwind suspiciously, only to find that his eyes were cold like never before. Nightwind's eyes were fixed in the direction of the gate, and the concrete walls flickered in his eyes. The figure of a man with a sharp knife in his hand and a hood ringing the doorbell outside the door was in full view of him. Love, buy a chain lock and hang it at the gate in the future, and open the door after opening the door to see the people outside. Quote. What is it? Isn't it President Kyoko who is outside the door? Nightwind shouted to Ai Hoshino, and she was stunned for a moment and quickly reacted. Ai Hoshino subconsciously took out her mobile phone and wanted to call the police, but was stopped by the Nightwind again. Rumi Hoshino grabbed Ai Hoshino's trouser leg at this time and whispered. Feng just took out a bugging device from the Star Sand bottle. Mom, you still don't take these gifts from fans home in the future. Quote. Well, it's my mother's fault. Quote. Ai Hoshino looked stunned, and then her expression returned to calm. The mother and daughter hugged each other and followed behind Nightwind. And Nightwind walked straight to the door, and quickly opened the door with a blank face. The guy who put the bugging device was really nearby, and he was provoked by himself and ran over to vent his anger. Or maybe he had premeditated, but it was a coincidence that he came here today. As Nightwind pondered, the door opened, and the hooded man standing outside the door held flowers in his right hand and a sharp knife in his left hand. The moment he saw the night breeze that opened the door, the defense line in the hooded man's heart completely collapsed. With a dark face and gloomy eyes, his heart was full of killing intent at the moment. The idol I've always loved, the idol I've always liked to the extreme, not only has a child, but also lives with other men. Ah! The roaring hooded man dropped the flowers in his hand and stabbed at the night wind without hesitation. The sharp knife pierced the heart of the night wind, but in the next second, a crisp sound of boom echoed in the air. The moment the tip of the knife really touched the heart of the night wind, it was as if the knife had stabbed into a steel plate. Ryosuke, the hooded man, watched as the blade bent and cracked. The flying shards flew back upside down, stabbing into his palms and cheeks. Suddenly, blood splattered, and the intense pain made him howl and scream. My eyes. Ah. Shut up. Nightwind listened irritably, and slapped it. With a snap, the hooded man was stunned by the night wind's slap, and lay straight on the ground unconscious. The hooded man's head slammed into the floor, scarlet blood pouring from his mouth, nose and eyes. Ai Hoshino took Rumi Hoshino's head into her arms and told her not to see the brutal scene in front of her. He's Ryosuke, the fan who often comes to my concerts. Quote. Looking at Ryosuke's face on the ground, she immediately recognized the identity of the other party. She doesn't hold handshakes and doesn't participate in any offline gatherings. Before, the star sand and bouquets were thrown from the stage to the stage. She picked it up and took it back. Who knew there was such a conspiracy? Is it that the lie of love has been exposed? Hoshino Ai muttered to herself, a look of helplessness in her eyes. Seeing Ai Hoshino's expression change, Nightwind flicked her head and said. God grimaces, what love lies have been exposed, as if it were your fault. Isn't it just that the idol collapsed, and the hearts of perverted fans collapsed? Quote. Nightwind could see Ai Hoshino's self-blame, and he wouldn't allow her to have such thoughts. Wind Monarch. I know. Quote. Ai Hoshino shouted the name of the night wind, and then fell silent for a moment and nodded. Her mind was in turmoil, and there was a fear that her lies would be discovered. She never dared to say, I love you, to her daughter, or even the night breeze in front of her. Because she is afraid that after she says it, she will find out that her love is also a lie. Nightwind knows Ai Hoshino's character very well, and naturally knows what she is thinking. He stepped forward and hugged her gently, patted Ai Hoshino's fair and smooth jade back, and comforted her softly. Everything will be okay, love, I'll take care of it all. Quote. Nightwind didn't ask Ai Hoshino too much what she was thinking. Hoshino loves to believe in him, then he will naturally love and trust each other as well. Let them go back to the house to rest first, and the night breeze looked at Ryosuke, who was not really cold on the ground. Nightwind reached out and grabbed him by the neck and lifted him up. Under the effect of the biological force field, the blood on the ground also flew out of thin air, and forcibly stuffed it back into Ryosuke's mouth to wake him up. Nightwind jumped high on tiptoe and jumped directly from the aisle on the second floor to the open space below. The apartments in this area are remote, there are no people, and there is no surveillance. That's why Ai Hoshino chose this place. On the one hand, there is not enough money, the rent here is cheap, and on the other hand, it is hidden enough that it is rarely inhabited. Leaving him around the corner of a dark alley, Nightwind threw him to the ground. Ahem. Ryosuke, who was slammed to the ground, coughed up the blood and dust in his throat at once. At this moment, he came to his senses, looking at the night breeze with an expression of horror to the extreme, looking down on him condescendingly. Monster. As soon as Ryosuke finished speaking, Nightwind's thick thigh kicked him in the abdomen. Bang! Ryosuke was hit hard, and instantly flew 3 meters away, slammed into the wall and fell to the corner. Ahem. The pain of broken ribs and ruptured internal organs made him vomit blood and almost faint. Why are you talking so rudely? Put your mouth well, I may let you go back alive. Quote. Nightwind said expressionlessly, as she walked slowly over to him. As soon as Ryosuke heard that he could live, a glimmer of light appeared in his originally dead eyes. Great, my lord, I was wrong. Whoever asked you to say this, I will ask you to answer, and I will kill you if you say one more word. Nightwind looks down at Ryosuke at his feet with an animal-like indifferent gaze. He immediately stopped his mouth, covering his belly and looking at the Nightwind with difficulty. What's your full name? Ryosuke Sawanaga. Quote. You put the bugging. Well, yes, I put it, but someone gave it to me. Quote. Speaking of the back, Ryosuke Sawanaga became excited, and blood continued to spill from his mouth. Although he is crazy about chasing stars, he is just a high school student after all. If it weren't for someone who provided him with information that Hoshino had children, and provided him with eavesdropping equipment, then he would not have come to the point where he is today, and even went to the door to kill people. After calming down, Ryosuke Sawanaga completely regretted it and complained with tears in his eyes. Nightwind glanced at him, disgusted by his appearance, and took a step back to continue to ask, so who is that person? Seeing the night breeze asking this, Ryosuke Sawanaga instantly got stuck. The man hadn't actually met with him, only to provide him with information, and an anonymous courier had come with a bugging device. The other party had never communicated with him directly from beginning to end. How could he possibly know who that person was? Before Ryosuke Sawanaga could reply, Nightwind shook his head and said, Forget it, needless to say, I've almost guessed it, so let me ask you one more question. Do you know Taisuke Swanaga? Taisuke, he's my brother, big brother, do you know him? Hearing his brother's name, Ryosuke Sawanaga suddenly became excited, and hurriedly asked. The only thing that answered him was the cold gaze of the night wind and the silent silence. Ryosuke Sawanaga's mood fell to the bottom in an instant, and he cautiously asked, could it be my younger brother? He offended you. Quote. If it weren't for the fact that his brother was injured in the explosion and hospitalized unconscious this morning with a classmate. Ryosuke Sawanaga couldn't wait to call immediately to ask if the other party had offended the monster in front of him. After a long silence, a smile rose at the corner of Nightwind's mouth. Taisuke Sawanaga's brother, I'm quite close to your family, don't worry, I won't let you die, I will do what I say. Nightwind leaned over and patted Ryosuke Sawanaga to let his guard down for a moment. Perspective vision swept towards Ryosuke Sawanaga, and the position of the skeleton and internal organs of his whole body were displayed in front of the eyes of the Nightwind. Nightwind's vision finally locked on his throat. He stretched out two fingers, tore the flesh and stabbed Ryosuke Sawanaga's throat, and crushed his vocal cords. A scarlet glimmer flickered in the pupils, and the scorching heat gaze scorched the wound so that it would not die of blood loss for a short time. Immediately, the night breeze turned his gaze, and the crimson heat beam swept towards Ryosuke Sawanaga's limbs, cutting them off one by one. Because of the destruction of his vocal cords, Ryosuke Sawanaga couldn't scream, and could only, woo woo woo, all over his body, and finally fainted in pain. After doing all this, Nightwind did just as he promised, and instead of taking Ryosuke Sawanaga's life, he quietly threw him to a junction. Nightwind's movements are blocked by a biological force field all the time, ensuring that there are no traces of Ryosuke Sawanaga on his body. Soon after, with a scream from a passerby, Ryosuke Sawanaga, who was dying, was found by passersby and rushed to the ICU ward. I hope you can survive, it's best to survive. Quote. The night breeze muttered, prayed for Ryosuke Sawanaga for a second, and then walked slowly in the direction of his house with a blank face. For the person who helped Ryosuke Sawanaga, Yefeng had a vague answer in his heart. Maybe it's the guy Hikaru Kamiki, who has a holiday with himself and Hoshino I. When Hoshino was an idol before, Hikaru Kamiki pursued Hoshino, but was rejected. When he was relaxing on the mountain a few years ago, Hikaru Kamiki tried to murder Katahito Yura and was caught by himself. Shenmue Guang's guy didn't know what he relied on to dredge up the relationship between the upper echelons, so he was only locked up for a while. In recent years, there has been no action, and there is a high probability that he is behind the scenes. Kamiki Hikari, I couldn't kill you before, but now. It's a bit of a shame to get killed. Quote. Nightwind thought for a moment, a smile on the corner of his mouth, and the coldness in his eyes was even worse. It was really him who planned this behind his back, and the Nightwind would definitely not let him die easily. As for how to make him worse than dead, Nightwind doesn't have a clue for the time being, so let's go back and catch that guy. By the time we walked home, it was getting late. As soon as the night breeze entered the door, Kasuga Wild Dome welcomed him, wearing only a cool apron. You came back too late, I learned some dishes for the evening for dinner, you try the ones that don't taste bad. Quote. Wow. Wow! Pochita also screamed excitedly twice, eating the food in her bowl. It seemed to affirm Kasuga's words, saying that the food she cooked was indeed delicious. Although Nightwind didn't have much appetite, he ate it all. As usual, only after embracing the dome more intimately, Nightwind did not fall asleep with his eyes open. Everything was so magical today. I wasn't nauseous, I wasn't scared, it was as if everything was as it should be. Quote. Obviously, he easily killed a group of people and tortured a person, but Nightwind didn't feel half guilt and fear in his heart, and he didn't get excited. This feels as common as killing a chicken, and it is already unreasonable for ordinary people. Nightbreeze has realized that his mindset has changed a lot. It doesn't matter, you don't have to think too much. Quote. Nightbreeze didn't think about it, and he wasn't like a fool who feared his powerful self. Maybe the current self is the real self, but his own nature has been suppressed for a long time. He gently opened the snow-white and smooth lotus arm, and when he touched the battle suit on the counter, the black nano battle suit clinged to the night wind like flowing water. In the end, it was transformed into a one-piece black trouser and battle suit, and the scarlet S pattern appeared on the chest, adding a bit of domineering feeling to the whole black battle suit. After coming to the kitchen alone, Nightbreeze clicked on the panel with his mind. The panel passes through a column, and the only thing that lights up now is the low world. Does it cost 1000 energy points to traverse? Yes. Is there a fixed time anchor? Time anchor. Looking at the pop-up window that popped up again, Nightwind took a closer look and quickly understood the role of the time anchor. It's 1:35 a.m., and if he leaves, the time anchor is fixed at this stage. If he returns, he will return directly at the current time. In this case, there was no last concern, and Nightwind immediately fixed the time anchor point and chose to cross. The 1000 energy points disappeared on the panel, and the Nightwind only felt that it was dark in front of him, and his senses were weightless, as if he had fallen from a height of 10,000 meters. The feeling was fleeting, and the next moment, he appeared in a forest. The warm sunlight splashed down on him through the gaps in the leaves, causing the night breeze to squint comfortably. In the forest, the night breeze looks at the panel as she walks. It seems that the first crossing has inspired another feature, and here a section of the quest appears. World Mission, Refreshable, 1000 energy points. Refresh a mission. 1. Kill a ghost. Reward. 200 energy points. 2. Join the Demon Slayer. Reward. A random breathing method. 3. Defeat the strongest in the world. Reward. Note. You can use 5000 energy points to repair the quest plate. What kind of garbage task section, this? Looking at the jagged list of tasks above, Nightwind can tell that the entire mission board is still broken. However, there are also some mysteries that can be seen in it, at least by judging what kind of world it is now. Demon Slayer, I don't know what time it was. Quote. Nightwind searched his mind for memories of Demon Slayer. This is a story of a ghost-killing team using breathing and swordsmanship to fight against ghosts. The Ghost King in this is Oni Maisuji, and it can be said that it is the source of ghosts. According to the strength in his memory, he can't stabilize the other party now, but if he basks in the sun for a while longer, he should be able to kill him. The only problem is that Nightwind feels like he's going to kill the other party, and it's still hard. It's a pity that I can't fly yet, let alone take others out of the atmosphere. Otherwise, even if the hammer doesn't die, if you throw your backhand into outer space and bask them in the sun, you can kill them alive. Take one step at a time, even if it's just a little more sun, it's earned. Quote. The night breeze is not too entangled, and the mentality is relatively stable. He used his sense of smell and his sense of hearing to run wildly through the forest. Before, he couldn't really let go of himself in Dora City, but now he can finally unleash his power at will. When you really let go of running with all your heart, the Nightwind goes on a rampage like a high-speed car. The night breeze didn't even avoid the trees along the way, and even the trees the thickness of the bole were either staggered or broken by the waste. Encountered a 100-year-old tree that was hugged by several people, and the Nightwind clenched his fists and punched out. Bang! Sawdust flew, and the whole tree let out a roar of explosion. The leaves fell, and the fist of the Nightwind pierced into the trunk of the tree with its forearms. When it was pulled out, it left a deep fist mark hole, and the aftermath of the fist shattered the trunk of the tree, causing the towering tree to crumble. After letting go of himself for a while, Nightwind calmed down and came to a small town in the mountains. For Nightwind, an outsider with strange clothes and extraordinary appearance and temperament, passers-by in the town are wary. Nightwind has a strong body and can see that his strength is extraordinary, and no thug dares to provoke him. He didn't carry a sword, and he didn't look like a samurai, but rather a wanderer. Nightwind was strangely dressed, but it was quite neat and didn't look like a wanderer. Passers-by who saw the night breeze all had this idea, and hurriedly withdrew their eyes and left in a hurry. It's supposed to be a bygone era. Quote. Seeing that there were no guards outside the town, and the passers-by on the street generally looked ragged, the Nightwind roughly judged what the other party was in. Probably before the start of the Demon Slayer story. With an attitude of indifference, Nightwind plans to stay in this town for a while. However, he didn't have any money in his hand, so after thinking twice, Nightwind walked to the nearby mountains. He was going to hunt a few prey for money, find a place to live later, and then slowly plan the next trip. There are no restrictions on this so-called quest section, and there is no punishment for him not to do it, and there is no time limit. Since he was protruding as he wanted, Nightbreeze didn't think too much about it. Rushing all the way to the deep mountains, the Nightwind sniffed the residual breath in the air, listened to the sound echoing in his ears, and soon found traces of the black bear's movements. At this time, the sense of smell is more useful than hearing, and the sound in the deep mountains and old forests is too noisy. His brain can't process so many sounds yet, and smell is different. Where the smell is strong and where the smell is light, he will know by smelling it. Following the scent, he soon found the trail of the black bear, but there was also an old man picking herbs in front of him. The old man with the medicine basket on his back instinctively wanted to look behind when he heard the sound of footsteps coming from behind. But as soon as he looked up, he saw a black bear taller than a man appearing not far away. It was on all fours and seemed to take a leisurely walk, as if it were just passing by. If you look closely, you will see that this black bear is actually approaching step by step. The old man, who knew the characteristics of the black bear, clenched the wood knife in the medicine basket and slowly retreated vigilantly. The black bear runs very fast, and it is absolutely impossible to run away from it by simply running, and it is absolutely impossible to turn around and run away. Instead, if you have to confront each other like this, the black bear will be a little more vigilant and hover ahead. Thinking of this, the old man was full of regret, and in order to save more dowry for his granddaughter, he went a little farther away and came here to pick medicinal herbs. The first few days were very smooth, but I didn't expect to encounter such a situation today. Perhaps this black bear has already eaten people, and it is not afraid to face the old man holding a firewood knife. Seeing the old man retreating, the black bear's paw slammed into the ground, changing into a leisurely appearance, and its huge body charged forward at an extremely fast speed. Knock knock knock. The old man, who was startled by the movements of the big black bear, was so frightened that the firewood knife in his hand fell to the ground. And the big black bear pounced on the old man, and slapped the old man's head with a fierce paw. When the old man was stunned, a black shadow instantly burst out from behind him. Phew! The howling wind made the old man's face hurt, and he was stupid and looked at the scene in front of him in horror. I saw a sturdy boy who broke the black bear's right paw with a single punch. The severe pain made the black bear howl, but the boy did not hesitate for a moment, and kicked the black bear in the belly. Bang! A dull sound echoed through the woods. The black bear's huge body flew out upside down in an instant, smashing several large trees and falling to the ground dying. The young teenager leapt high with his legs. With a gaze beyond the old man's understanding of human beings, he jumped out 7 or 8 meters away. Jumped directly in front of the black bear and slammed another punch into the black bear's head. The black bear's head burst open on the spot, turning into a puddle of minced flesh and spilling on the ground. Then the night wind unhurriedly picked up the completely dead black bear, and turned his head to look at the old man who was frozen behind him. It's okay. Quote. Well, sir, I'm fine. Quote. When the old man heard the sound of the night wind, he suddenly came back to his senses and nodded in response. He looked at the night breeze in amazement, and only felt that he had seen the gods. Being able to kill a black bear so easily with bare hands is not something that humans can do at all. Seeing that the old man was so in awe of himself, Yefeng asked casually, tell me what era it is. Quote. The villain doesn't know this, but he only knows that there have been many daimyo and generals who have been fighting around recently. Quote. When he talked about this, the old man's eyes were full of helplessness and bitter tears. His son was recruited as a soldier, leaving not even a corpse. And the daughter-in-law just took care of her granddaughter within a few years after giving birth to her granddaughter, and died of excessive sadness because of the root of the illness she had fallen on before and the sadness of missing her husband. Leaving him alone as a bad old man, he took care of his granddaughter until now, but her granddaughter fell ill. Even though his granddaughter is beautiful and is a famous beauty in the town. But as soon as the news of illness spread, how could anyone dare to marry? What if I marry and my own family is infected? Tossed up to now, he doesn't have a few years to live. The only thing I can't let go of is my granddaughter who hasn't married in her 20s that year. Is it the warring states period? The night breeze muttered, and stopped asking. Looking at the old man's expression, it seemed that he remembered something sad. The villain is a general physician in a nearby town, and you should be going to the town as well, right? Can you go to the villain's house and sit down? Quote. The old man quickly restrained his sad expression, and suddenly thought of something and asked softly about the night breeze in front of him. Yes, I'm new here, and I don't have a place to rest, so I'll sell the black bear, and I'll pay for the accommodation. Quote. Night breeze didn't refuse, he had planned to find a place to rest, and it didn't matter where it was. Seeing that the night breeze agreed, the old man was even more surprised, and waved his hand again and again. How can you bother your lord? It is the honor of the villain to come and sit. Quote. Then the old man led the way, and the two returned to the town together. Seeing that the old doctor came back with the night breeze and carried such a big black bear, it immediately attracted the attention of many people. Black bears are in high demand for both skin and meat, as well as internal organs. Just a little wandering around the street, many people offer to buy it. A black bear was paid a lot of money at once, which is almost enough for ordinary people to live for half a year. Then the old man led the night breeze to his pharmacy in the town, and as soon as he entered the door, he beckoned. Zushi, Grandpa is back. Quote. Grandpa, you're finally back. Quote. A happy voice came from the pharmacy, the voice was calm and pure. When the other party came out to greet him, Nightwind saw the other party's appearance clearly. The woman was probably less than 20 years old, and she wore a dark purple kimono, which was very loose but could not hide the woman's slender figure. The beautiful face is intoxicating, while a long black hair is parted from the middle and combed into a large, low bun. Her hair is held in place by a flower hairpin, her temperament is gentle and kind, and her eyes are overflowing like spring water, like a lilac mist. The lips are rosy and shiny, which contrasts sharply with the pale complexion, and shows the beauty of a sickly beauty. Looking at this pretty beauty, the night breeze was also amazed by her beauty and temperament. Noticing the fluctuations in the night wind's eyes, the old man showed a smile on his face, and hurriedly greeted Zhu Shidao. Zhu Shi, this is Lord Night Wind, you have to respect this lord as you respect me. And Zhu Shi is also looking at the night breeze in front of him at the moment, attracted by his handsome appearance and muscular figure. She didn't go out much, and after her illness, she was weak and only walked around the hospital. She rarely saw a man like Night Wind, let alone so handsome. Two blushes immediately appeared on Zhu Shi's pale cheeks, and his eyes involuntarily turned to the side in shame. She immediately saluted and respectfully welcomed, Lord Night Wind, please come in. Quote. Your name is really Zhu Shi, right? Quote. Night Breeze stepped in, followed behind Zhu Shi, and asked such an inexplicable question. Although Zhu Shi wondered why Night Wind wanted to confirm his name, he still replied nervously and whispered, well, the little girl's name is Zhu Shi. Quote. Zhu Shi nervously stretched out a pair of slender white hands from the cuffs and lifted the loose kimono. A small arc silhouette emerges in front of the night wind, and the appearance of a touch of snow and deep grooves is desirable. Because of shyness and timidity, the eyelashes on a pair of big watery eyes flickered. With the flush of her cheeks, it was like a ripe peach hanging on a branch waiting to be picked by the night breeze. The night breeze also couldn't help but beat his heart, and the idea of possessing the beauty in front of him arose in his heart. Thanks for watching.